Adorned in a splendid scarlet attire, I await the arrival of my future husband for the wedding ceremony. However, the heir of the Duke of Wuan has brought forth a white sedan chair to escort me. The reason for this alteration lies in the grave illness of my cousin residing at the Duke's residence. The master proclaimed that she must not behold the color red, prompting the heir to hastily drape the bridal chair in white cloth overnight. He remarked, "What significance does the color of a sedan chair hold? What truly matters is that you are marrying me, is it not? You have always been understanding, and surely you will not dwell on such trivial matters." Clad in my resplendent red garments, I did not spare him a glance and turned instead towards the young general amidst the throng. "Jiang Noah, I have heard that you rode a magnificent steed today, a prized blood horse. Would it not serve well for the wedding procession? Might it facilitate our vows and union?" "One miss. Something terrible has happened. The heir of the Marquis of Wu has arrived with a white bridal sedan chair to fetch the bride. My devoted maid, Rua burst into the room, her eyes awash with tears. Instantly, the noble ladies who had come to assist with the wedding fell silent, only to erupt in a cacophony of confusion. What is going on? How can a white sedan chair be used on such a joyous occasion? Is this a wedding or a funeral? Is he here to marry, or to ruin the marriage? I lifted my veil in concern. What is happening? Furrowing my brows, I stepped outside. The area outside the General's residence was teeming with people, so densely packed that not even a drop of water could pass through. Upon my appearance, they all clamored, "The bride has come out. Why isn't she wearing a red veil?" The sedan chair, which should have been adorned for the wedding, was instead shrouded in white cloth, a stark contrast to the vibrant red firecrackers scattered about the ground. The heir actually chose a white sedan chair for the wedding. What could this signify? I spoke coldly. Gu Shiyu stepped forward, his expression one of regret. "Jin Chu, my cousin is gravely ill, and the master at Siyun Temple has advised that she cannot see red, otherwise it will bring calamity." I had no choice but to change to a white sedan chair for the wedding. The color of the sedan chair is inconsequential. What matters is that you are marrying me, is it not? You have always been understanding. You should be able to empathize. Empathize? Since the founding of the dynasty, no one has ever used a white sedan chair to fetch a bride. It is not a ghost marriage. Cannot see red? I glanced at Gu Shiyu, noticing the white fabric peeking from his collar. Surely, he had even changed into a white wedding outfit. I stepped back. For a daughter of the General's family to marry, it must be in a grand 8-bear sedan chair with a lavish bridal procession. We cannot exit in such a manner. If you value your cousin's health, why not wait until she recovers before discussing the wedding date? Gu Shiyu, agitated, followed me. Jin Chu, why must you concern yourself with such trivial matters? What significance does the color of the sedan chair hold? Is this how the Shin family upholds their values? You cannot endure this little grievance? I turned to him. Your Highness, this wedding is not yet formalized. I am not yet a part of the Marquis of Wu's household. So, why must I bear your family's burdens? Just then, my stepmother hurried from the courtyard. The heir has arrived. The auspicious hour is approaching. Why hasn't Jin Chu boarded the sedan chair yet? Gu Shiyu smiled. See, even my mother is reasonable. My stepmother wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and looked at me. From now on, we are all one family. You will marry the heir, and his cousin will also be your sister. You should view this white sedan chair as a means to save a life. You come from a noble lineage. You should understand that a woman marries into her husband's family and must regard her husband as her world. Are you truly considering not marrying over a mere sedan chair? A hint of a smile lingered at her lips, but my heart turned cold. She was not my biological mother. The notion of the legitimate daughter of the General's household departing in a white sedan chair would be a disgrace to the entire clan. How could she, as the mistress of the house, agree to such a thing with a clear conscience? Gu Shiyu, still smiling, insisted, "Look, even my mother has no objections. Jin Chu, please get into the sedan chair." Rua rushed forward to shield me. "You're being too oppressive. On the day of her grand wedding, to make the young lady use such a sedan chair, when the general returns, he will surely hold you accountable." My stepmother's face darkened. "You, a mere servant, have no right to speak. Someone, the auspicious hour is near. Help the young lady onto the sedan chair." The matchmaker hurriedly stepped forward to assist me. But I shrugged her off. "Mother, If I board this sedan chair today, the general's household will lose face. You must consider this. My younger sister is yet to be betrothed. If this damages our reputation, how will she be able to marry into a prominent family in the future? At that time, will my brother-in-law's family also come to fetch her in a white sedan chair? How will you justify that? My stepmother was enraged. What nonsense are you spouting? Are you cursing your sister? A white sedan chair is for the deceased. You know your sister is unwell, yet you dare speak such words against her. I laughed. So you are aware that a white sedan chair is inauspicious. I thought you were too narrow-minded to realize that it is meant for the dead. Those accompanying the heir grew anxious and urged, Your Highness, the auspicious hour is drawing near. If the bride does not board the sedan chair soon, it will be too late. Gu Shi looked at me. Jinshu, it is time to board the bridal sedan. I stepped back once more. Your Highness, please forgive me. Jinshu cannot board the sedan chair. Let us discuss the wedding date when my father returns. Gu Shuyu is furious. Our families have long agreed on the wedding date. How can you simply declare that you will not marry? Do you have any idea how long our family has prepared for this? I pointed at the sedan chair outside. What is the delay for a mere piece of white cloth? At that moment, someone rushed in, breathless. Your Highness, the cousin has arrived. As he spoke, several maids supported a young lady into the room. It was Gu Shiyu's cousin, Song Shiner. Her pale face was a sight of distress as she struggled to approach us, and Gu Shiyu, filled with concern, steadied her. Shiner, your health is poor. Why have you come? Song Shiner gazed at me, her eyes shimmering with tears. Sister-in-law, please do not blame me. It is all because of me that my cousin has found himself in this predicament. I have come to apologize. The master said that I must not see red while ill. Otherwise, it will bring misfortune, and that is why my cousin thought of this solution to fetch the bride. I am truly sorry, sister-in-law. I interrupted her. Miss Song, please refrain from addressing me as such. I have yet to enter the gates of the Marquis of Wu's residence. And I am not your sister-in-law. If you cannot see red, then does the wedding chamber of the Marquis of Wu also have to be white? Are they planning a funeral instead? My words left the members of the Marquis of Wu's household with their heads bowed. It seemed I had struck a chord. Song Shiner coughed gently. This is all my fault. If it were not for my poor health, the Marquis's household would not be put in such a difficult position. Please do not blame my cousin. If you are to blame anyone, blame me. I will kneel before you and implore you to board the sedan chair. We cannot miss the auspicious hour. Before everyone, she weakly knelt, tears cascading down her cheeks. It is Shiner who is burdened sister-in-law and my cousin. I beseech you to consider my plight and marry into the Marquis of Wu's household. 3. She appeared on the verge of collapsing, utterly pitiful, seeing her. The crowd outside felt their hearts break. This is truly unavoidable. The heir is right to be concerned for his sister. The Miss Shun is being too calculative. Miss Shun is far too stingy. The young lady of the Marquis's family has even knelt to plead with her. What more does she want? Voices of dissent arose. What do you mean by being too calculative? How can you marry while using this sedan chair? How unlucky. Did you not hear? The Marquis of Wu has even set up a white wedding hall for the cousin. How can they care so much for a mere cousin? Even at the expense of the future mistress of the house. To say there is nothing between the cousin and the heir is simply unbelievable. It was evident that the heir was fond of her. This was a tale as old as time, a love story between cousins. Gu Shiyu, filled with concern, helped Song Shiner to her feet, gently leaning her against him, his anger barely restrained as he turned to me. Shinjinshu, have you had your fill of this? Shiner has pleaded with a frail body on your behalf. What more do you want? Are you truly willing to throw everything away over a mere sedan chair? Your pettiness and stinginess will not serve you well as the future matriarch of the household. How can you fulfill the role of a virtuous wife in the Gu family? Song Shiner's complexion turned pale, and she weakly implored, Cousin, please do not blame Miss Shin. It is all my fault. Sister-in-law, if you truly care about this, I can leave the Marquis's household. This way, my cousin can marry you in a grand and dignified manner. As long as my cousin is well, I do not care what happens to me. Cousin, your marriage is of utmost importance. Let me leave the Marquis's household. You have cared for me for so long. I cannot continue to impose on the Marquis's family. On this joyous occasion, I have caused such embarrassment. How can I bear that? As she spoke, she reached out to a maid. Assist me in returning to the Marquis' residence to pack my things. We will be moving out. Just then, she took a step forward and immediately fainted. Gu Shiyu caught her, shouting, "Quick, fetch a doctor." Then, with tears in his eyes, he turned to me. "Is this what you wanted? Are you determined to push Shiner to her death before you are satisfied?" He glared at me with fury, saying, "Your cousin cannot see the color red. Today I risk my life to convince you, and it is the sight of your crimson attire that has caused her to faint. If you still wish to marry into the Marquis's house, you must immediately change into a white dress. Exiner has sacrificed her life for you. Can you not consider her feelings? If you wish to marry, then step into the palanquin at once. If not, I shall turn and leave, and there will be no remedy for your regrets in the future." Seeing the anguish etched on his face, I took a step back. The bond between the young master and my cousin is indeed profound. I, Jin Shu, could not bear to interfere. Upon reflection, our union, a blind marriage, is certainly not a good match. It would be best to cancel the engagement, allowing both parties to lead their own lives henceforth. Gu Shiyu's face turned ashen. "Very well, Shin Jin Shu. Do not come to regret this. We shall go. The engagement between the Marquis of Wuan and the General of Pingnan is hereby dissolved. Miss Shin, should you regret this in the future, do not come seeking me." Song Exiner, awakening languidly in his arms, weakly implored, "Cousin, please do not argue over me and Miss Shin. It is all my fault. Just let me leave the mansion. As long as you and Miss Shin are happy, my death is of no consequence." Gu Shiyu gently soothed her. "Do not speak nonsense. I promise to care for you, and I shall do so for a lifetime." With that, he carried Song Exiner out of the general's mansion. My stepmother called from behind, "Young master, how can the engagement be cancelled? I will persuade Jin Shu to change into white attire immediately." Turning to glare at me, she continued, "If the young master of Wuan were to cancel the engagement, how will the girls of our clan marry in the future? Are you trying to ruin your sister's prospects? You may not wish to marry, but you cannot jeopardize their futures, or let it be known that the Shin family's daughter was jilted on her wedding day. Who would dare propose to the Shin family after such disgrace? It is your father's indulgence that has spoiled you. Now that the general is away, it falls upon me, as your mother, to teach you the proper decorum. Someone, take down the eldest young lady's bridal gown and dress her in white instead. She shall be married within the hour." The servants rushed forward at my stepmother's command, seizing me. "Miss, you must hurry and change your dress." They began to tear at my wedding gown. Ruar rushed forward to protect me. "Stop. How can you treat the eldest young lady this way?" In an instant, she was kicked aside and fell to the ground. I struck back with a resounding slap. "How dare you? I am the eldest young lady of the general's mansion. How many of you dare lay hands on me?" My words stunned the servants, and they hesitantly released me. I stepped forward, casting a cold gaze upon them. "With your audacity, do you not recognize who truly holds sway here? This household bears the name Shin. Consider carefully who the real master is." My stepmother sneered. "The eldest young lady is indeed something. No matter your status, marriage is dictated by parental orders and matchmaking. This engagement was arranged by your father, and regardless of the young master's wishes, you must go through with it. To cancel the engagement simply because the color of the palanquin displeases you is unbecoming of a daughter of the Shin family. Though your father is far away at the borders, he is worried endlessly for you. As the head of this household, I will not permit such folly. Do you realize that offending the Marquis's house could impact your father's career? How can you be so selfish as to disregard the Shin clan? Furthermore, marrying into the Marquis's family as the legitimate wife has its advantages, luxurious garments and lavish wealth. Must you be so difficult to please?" I scoffed derisively, "Mother. It is precisely for father's sake that I cannot comply. Should word of such a disgraceful act spread, it would tarnish the Shin family's reputation, suggesting that we have sacrificed our dignity to climb the social ladder. When the Marquis of Wuan first proposed, it was said that he wished to marry the legitimate daughter of the General of Pingnan. Since sister is also considered legitimate, why not allow her to marry into the Marquis's house instead?" No sooner had I spoken than my legitimate sister dashed forward, shrieking, "Shin Jin Shu, you shall not. I refuse to marry. I will not sit in that deathly palanquin. Mother, I do not wish to marry." My stepmother, in a low voice, attempted to soothe her. "Do not worry, I would never allow you to wed." She turned to me, Jean Shu, you are the elder sister. You are not yet married. How could it be your sister's turn? This marriage is naturally yours. Outside, the representatives of the Marquis of Wuan clamored, Madam Shin, will the young lady marry or not? Several noble women gathered around me, eager to speak on my behalf, yet there was little they could do. If my father could not return to advocate for me, I could not defy my mother's orders. I glanced at the onlookers, a smile playing at my lips. Mother. The one to marry into the Marquis's house is the general's legitimate daughter. If I marry, then the young master cannot marry me again, correct? My mother was taken aback, stammering, what are you saying? Marrying? You are already dressed in bridal attire. Do not speak such nonsense. If you have the means, find someone to marry you now. I walked toward the figure adorned in crimson and gold, standing before him. Jiang Nua, I have heard you rode a fine steed today. Would it be convenient for us to wed? Jiang Nua, my childhood companion and the valiant cavalry general, was known for our playful bickering. Today, on my wedding day, he had the audacity to gift me the treasured sword we had fought over since childhood. In light of this sword, I deemed him far superior to Gu Shiyu. Dressed in splendid attire, Jiang Nua held the reins in one hand, tapping the other against his palm, arching an eyebrow at me. Have you made your decision? If you marry me, there will be no turning back. I took the red veil. I shall never regret it. Jiang Nua laughed heartily, placing the veil over my head, lifting me into his arms, and commanded those around him. Today I am marrying. Everyone is invited to the general's house for a celebratory drink. Outside, his magnificent steed awaited. He hoisted me onto its back, saying, Jean Shu, hold on tight. We are going home now. The vibrant red of my wedding gown billowed alongside his crimson attire as the steed galloped away. The people of the General of Pingnan were thrown into chaos, while those awaiting the bride from the Marquis of Wuan were equally disordered. Madam Shin, we have an engagement. Your family cannot break it. My legitimate sister wailed and protested. Mother, I would rather die than sit in that white palanquin. You cannot force me to marry into the Marquis's house. That cousin of his seemed to have a close relationship with the young master, who cherished her dearly. I refused to marry. Suddenly, a voice boomed from the entrance. What is all this commotion? It was my father, the General of Pingnan, returning home in haste. He furrowed his brow at the sight of the white palanquin. Is today not the day of Jean Shu's wedding to the young master of Wuan? Why is a white palanquin stationed before the gate? Whose family is conducting a funeral? Such a breach of etiquette cannot occur in front of the general's mansion. Ruar rushed forward and knelt, exclaiming, General, you have returned at last. You must advocate for the eldest young lady. The Marquis of Wuan is being excessively unreasonable. They brought a white palanquin to take her away. They claim that the young master's cousin cannot see red, so they have changed everything to white, even draping the wedding hall in white cloth. This is not a wedding. They are forcing the young lady into despair. They even pressured her to wear a white dress for the marriage. If she goes through with this, where will she find a way to live? My stepmother was even aiding the young master, allowing them to strip the eldest young lady of her bridal gown and dress her in white. Forcing her to marry in such haste, she barely had time to follow the cavalry general. My father erupted in rage. This is absurd. With a single blow, he shattered the table beside him. My stepmother stepped forward, only for my father to slap her across the face. I married you to care for my daughter. And this is how you fulfill that duty? Clutching her face, she spoke with a quivering voice. General, what is wrong with Jean Shu marrying into the Marquis's house? This arrangement was made by you. My father scoffed coldly. If it were a proper wedding, there would be no issue. Yet the Marquis of Wuan behaves in this manner. And you would compel Jean Shu to marry? What is your true intention? If it were Jean you marrying, would you still act the same? My mother cried, but it was originally arranged for Jean Shu. My father looked at her with disappointment. The initial engagement merely stated it was for the legitimate daughter of the Shin family. It did not specify who it would be. Since an explanation must be provided to the Wuan Marquis's residence, I shall take the lead and arrange for Jean Yu's marriage. The stepmother turned pale, collapsing to her knees with tears in her eyes. General, Jean Yu is still so young. My father fixed his gaze upon her until she lowered her head. Jean Yu is already 17, hardly a child. Have you not always been seeking a suitable match for her, claiming that once a worthy groom was found, she could be married? With Jean Shu wed to the General of Cavalry, Jean Yu stands as the sole legitimate daughter of the household. How could the General's residence afford to betray trust? The stepmother shook her head. No, no. Jean Chu's marriage does not count. How can a girl simply declare her intent to marry? Someone interjected. But just earlier, you stated that if the eldest daughter found a suitor, you would consent. Indeed, moments ago, you were insisting that the eldest daughter marry into the Marquis' family. Now, when it concerns your own daughter, you hesitate. Truly, it is evident that she is not a biological child. The affection is lacking. The stepmother's face flushed with alternating colors as she knelt, wiping her tears. General, I have always regarded Jean Chu as my own flesh and blood. How could I intentionally harm her? I simply fear offending the Marquis' residence, which might jeopardize your career. Furthermore, they intend to carry her in a plain sedan. How can this be? Jean Yu is the legitimate daughter of the general's residence. General, she cannot be married off in such a manner. The Marquis' household must follow proper customs for the wedding. Otherwise, where would the dignity of the general's residence reside? Those gathered around could not help but laugh. Madame Shen now insists on adhering to wedding customs. She certainly did not say so just moments ago. This stepmother is truly heartless. Until the needles prick her own skin, she knows not the pain. The arrangement with the Wuan Marquis' household has been made clear before the emperor. It is too late to withdraw. She must marry. The servants of the Wuan Marquis hurriedly returned to report that Lord Shen had returned. Immediately, the matriarch of the Marquis' household ordered the lifting of more than a dozen boxes of gifts, stating they were to compensate the Shen family's daughter for the earlier discourtesy, and that these gifts should be considered as part of the bride's dowry, with the wedding date to be discussed later. The stepmother gazed at the boxes filled with jewels and silver, her mind racing, and her heart stirred. Finally, my father looked at the stepmother. If Jean Yu is willing to marry, these will be added to her dowry. If she is unwilling, these shall be returned. And I will personally go to the palace to apologize. The stepmother pressed down firmly. General, rest assured, I will speak to Jean Yu and ensure she consents. My father addressed those from the Wuan Marquis' household. Return and inform your young master that if he wishes to wed my daughter, he must adhere to the proper customs. He then hurried to the General of Cavalry's residence, where I had already completed the wedding ceremony with Jiang Nua. Rua Er had come along, and upon seeing me, she cried, Miss, the general has returned to make decisions for you. I looked at my father, weary from his travels, my eyes welling with tears. Father. Jiang Nua stepped forward. Respected father-in-law, please allow your humble son-in-law to pay his respects. Having watched him grow since childhood, my father, knowing him well, patted his shoulder. If you mistreat Jean Chu, my spear shall not spare you. Even if you run to the ends of the earth, I shall hold you accountable. Jiang Nua, smiling, reassured him. Rest easy, father-in-law. I shall treat Jean Chu well. My father gently patted my head. I have returned late, causing Jean Chu to suffer. I have arranged for the dowry to be brought over. This was prepared by your mother and me long ago, and though the marriage is hasty, propriety cannot be disregarded. 120 boxes of dowry were grandly transported into the residence. Jiang Nua and I then bowed before my father once more, completing the formalities and becoming truly married. The matrons of the household whispered that the stepmother had spoken at length with my younger sister throughout the night, detailing the numerous advantages of marrying into the Marquis' household. Once she entered, she would be the mistress. That cousin would be at her mercy, and no one would be able to challenge her position. Furthermore, if she wed into the Marquis' family, my father would prepare an equally splendid dowry for her. Jean Yu, contemplating the 120 boxes of dowry and the hereditary title, felt a stirring in her heart. My father warned the Marquis' household, and they agreed to formally welcome Miss Shen into the family according to the proper customs. It seemed this union was destined to occur. Thus, Jean Yu nodded in agreement, eagerly awaiting her turn to become a bride. On the day I returned to my family after 3 days, it coincided with the day of the grand wedding between the Wuan Marquis and the general's residence, where joyful sedan chairs were sent to escort the bride, accompanied by a festive fanfare. Jean Yu, filled with pride, looked at me. Sister, although you were once treasured like gold, what does it matter? You were still humiliated and married to a mere junior general. Once I marry into the Gu family and become the mistress of the Marquis' household, you shall need to pay me respects. I am eager to see who will dare to say I am inferior to you. I smiled slightly. Then I wish my sister all her desires fulfilled. Ah, the many demons of the Wuan Marquis' residence. Jinyu, the foolish girl pampered by her stepmother, remains blissfully unaware of the dangers that await her. I stood at the back of the crowd, watching Gu Shiyu cheerfully escort the bride out. Jinyu, shy beneath her veil, climbed into the flower-laden sedan chair with Gu Shiyu's assistance, entering the Wuhan Marquis' residence.
Yang Nuo,
Having lost his parents early on and not bound by many customs, accompanied me back home. Knowing my father longed for his daughter, he stayed with me for a few extra days. To my surprise, barely 3 days after Jinyu's marriage, she returned, weeping as she fell into her stepmother's embrace. Mother, I wish to divorce Gu Shiyu. He deceived me and intends to marry Song Shiner as a concubine. The stepmother was taken aback, urgently calling for the servants to inquire about the situation. It turned out that on the day of their wedding, when Gu Shiyu lifted the veil, he was horrified to discover that the bride was not me, but Jinyu. He immediately expressed his desire to annul the marriage. Jinyu clung to him, weeping pitifully. Husband, we have already completed the ceremony. Everyone knows you have married me. If you annul the marriage, I shall die in the Wuhan Marquis' residence. Sister has a fierce temper. Upon seeing you depart with our cousin that day, she immediately remarried the general of cavalry. Now, she is someone else's wife. Your wish to annul the marriage and marry her is futile. Moreover, the betrothal only stipulated the general's legitimate daughter. I too am a legitimate daughter. Since the Gu family consented to marry me, I am your wife. I was compelled to marry for the sake of both families' reputations and have already endured countless grievances. If you do not love me, I may as well end my life by my own hand. Jinyu, petite and tearfully delicate, moved Gu Shiyu's heart. With warmth and tenderness, having married her, he took her into the bridal chamber. However, in the dead of night, a disturbance arose outside the courtyard. It was Song Shiner's maid. Young master, the cousin has fainted. You must come quickly. Ignoring the fact that it was still their wedding night, Gu Shiyu pushed Jinyu aside and hurried out to Song Shiner's room. Song Shiner lay pale, barely regaining consciousness. Upon seeing Gu Shiyu, she wept. Cousin, I did not mean to disrupt your wedding night, but my heart suddenly ached, and I fainted. I feared I would never wake again. So I wished to see you one last time. With that, she collapsed into Gu Shiyu's arms. The matron beside Song Shiner, filled with pity, knelt before Gu Shiyu. Young master, I implore you. My lady has been gravely ill, and her condition has worsened. Just days ago, she coughed up blood. I fear for her well-being. With her parents gone, should anything happen, there will be no one to honor her memory. Please marry my lady and give her a proper title. At least in death, she will have a place. With that, she embraced Song Shiner. My poor lady, I have watched you grow, and I cannot bear to see you suffer. Song Shiner shook her head. No, do not put my cousin in a difficult position. Even if I die, I am but a handful of earth. As she spoke, she covered her mouth and coughed into the matron's embrace. Gu Shiyu could no longer endure the scene. He directly embraced Song Shiner. Shiner, do not fear. I will marry you as a concubine tomorrow and grant you a proper title. Jinyu awoke to the devastating news that Gu Shiyu intended to take Song Xiner as a secondary wife. It felt as though the heavens themselves had collapsed upon her. With tears brimming in her eyes, she confronted Gu Shiyu, exclaiming, We just consummated our marriage yesterday, and today you wish to marry another? Where does that leave me as your wife? Your cousin has been proclaiming her imminent demise for years, yet she continues to thrive in your household. What a facade. Surely, she has long plotted to wed into the Marquis' house. Gu Shiyu, unable to contain his frustration, struck Jinyu across the face. How dare you speak of Xiner in such a manner? She is innocent by nature and not one to engage in such devious scheming. Jinyu, clutching her cheek, retorted, No wonder my sister would rather withdraw from the marriage than wed you. She has seen through you long ago. Impatient, Gu Shiyu declared, Regardless of your feelings, my decision is made. Today, I shall bring Xiner into my home. The marriage of a secondary wife in the Wuhan Marquis was not lavishly celebrated. Only a few tables of close friends and relatives were gathered. Just as the officiant began the ceremonial bowing of the couple and was about to usher them into the bridal chamber, Jinyu burst in, exclaiming, Hold on. She strode forward boldly, disregarding Gu Shiyu's displeasure, and seated herself in the main hall. Since my husband intends to take a secondary wife, according to our customs, the secondary wife is indeed subordinate to the primary wife. It is only fitting that she first pays her respects with tea to me, the legitimate wife. Gu Shiyu barked. Must you create a scene at this moment? Unfazed, Jinyu replied. You are marrying a secondary wife the very next day after our wedding. Have you no shame? For the sake of your cousin, you have already made us the laughingstock of the entire capital. Do you fear that I might cause further embarrassment? Song Exiner lifted her veil to intercede. Husband, allow me to serve tea to my sister. The servants promptly arranged the tea, and Song Exiner delicately held the cup, saying, Sister, please have some tea. As Jinyu reached out to accept it, Song Exiner suddenly leaned forward, spilling the scalding tea all over Jinyu. The boiling liquid caused Jinyu to leap up in shock, shoving Song Exiner away. Are you trying to scald me to death, you vile woman? Song Exiner collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down her face. Sister, if you do not like me, just say so. Why must you accuse me of harming you? I lack even the strength to serve tea. How could I possibly harm you? Gu Shiyu scooped Song Exiner into his arms, glaring fiercely at Jinyu. Vile woman, return to your own quarters and reflect on your actions. If you do not repent, perhaps it is time to consider replacing you as the lady of the house. That evening, Gu Shiyu took refuge in Song Exiner's chamber, and despite her previously fragile condition, she appeared remarkably well the next day. The matron wiped her tears, exclaiming, Miss has cast off her worries, and her health has improved remarkably. Truly, it is the young master's influence. Nestled in Gu Shiyu's embrace, Song Exiner sweetly declared, In the future, I shall take good care of myself and bear children for my cousin. Meanwhile, Jinyu spent a restless night in her new room. The following morning, she heard rumors of Song Exiner's recovery, unaware that it was all a trap, and she returned home in tears. Upon hearing this, her stepmother's face darkened with fury, demanding that her father confront the marquise. Her father, with a cold demeanor, replied, I had asked if Jinyu was unwilling to marry. I would have taken the initiative to apologize and withdraw from the engagement. It was you who insisted she could marry. When Jinyu held the dowry list, she was overjoyed. Marrying into a noble family is no trivial matter. What use is there in regretting it now? Jinyu sobbed, Father, the young master marrying a secondary wife is a slap in the face to our family. Moreover, Song Exiner is cunning. She feigned illness all these years merely to enter the marquise. Now that she has achieved her goal, Mother, I wish to divorce him. I do not care. You must ensure the young master sends Song Exiner away. I, along with Jiang Nua, found it tiresome to listen to her lamentations. Such matters should have been contemplated before she married into the marquise. Now, what good is her weeping? Her father said, You may seek a divorce if you wish, however. Should you wish to remarry in the future, do not come to me for assistance. Once Jinyu had wept her fill and emerged. She found me in the courtyard gathering flowers. Angrily, she exclaimed, Sister, what cunning thoughts you harbor. Knowing the Wuan Marquisate situation, you deceived me into marrying into it to avoid trouble. I looked at her and replied, Marrying into the marquise was your own decision. You once said that once you became the mistress of the marquise, you would wait for me to bow before you in respect. Is it not simply your mother and you who cannot relinquish the allure of wealth and status? And now you blame me for your misfortunes? At that moment, a servant arrived with the news. The young master has come to escort the second Mississippi. Gu Shiyu rushed in and, upon seeing Jinyu and me, paused, his face reflecting embarrassment. Jinyu, why have you returned to the general's residence so suddenly? Was it not supposed to be 3 days before your return? Jinyu scoffed and replied, I returned to the general's residence precisely to make way for you and your little cousin. Gu Shiyu, with a forced smile, coaxed Jinyu back to the marquise. The news of Gu Shiyu marrying a secondary wife the day after his wedding quickly spread throughout the capital. Coupled with the incident of using a white sedan chair to fetch the bride, the Gu family became the talk of the town. Gu Shiyu initially believed this was merely a family affair. However, the gossip became rampant, even reaching the ears of the emperor. The union between the two families had been a royal decree, and his decision to marry a secondary wife the very next day was seen as a slight against the emperor, indicating discontent with the royal match. Consequently, the emperor summoned Gu Shiyu to the palace and reprimanded him severely, accusing him of lacking propriety and moral integrity, ordering him to reflect on his actions for half a year. Dejected, Gu Shiyu returned to the marquise, only to be met with the sound of shouting from within. It was Song Exiner and Jinyu engaged in a heated argument. He could not fathom why his usually gentle cousin had become so irritable and suspicious after their marriage. She incessantly complained about Jinyu's cruelty and how she withheld her allowances. Meanwhile, Jinyu accused him of favoring his concubine over his wife, claiming that their home was rife with discord and forbidding her from staying in Xiner's room until she conceived. Thus, the Wuhan Marquisate became the capital's greatest laughingstock. Soon, the rivalry between Jinyu and Song Exiner escalated to matters concerning offspring. During breakfast, Song Exiner fainted and was diagnosed as pregnant, prompting even the elderly matriarch, who had been fasting at the temple, to return, beaming with joy. She placed the family heirloom jade bracelet on Song Exiner's wrist, exclaiming, "If you bear the legitimate heir for our Marquisate, you shall be the lady of the house henceforth." Leaning against Gu Shiyu, Song Exiner sweetly vowed, "I will certainly bear many children for my husband in the future." Jinyu, gritting her teeth in fury, feigned wisdom as she approached, saying, "I am now in charge of the household. My sister is pregnant, and I will take great care to ensure she delivers a legitimate heir for the Marquisate." Gu Shiyu breathed a sigh of relief. With a wife so wise and considerate, I am at ease. I shall ensure that neither you nor Exiner is treated poorly. Both of you are equally important to me. However, since Song Exiner became pregnant, she frequently suffered from headaches or nausea, insisting on Gu Shiyu's company in the courtyard for 2 months, leaving Jinyu without even a glimpse of him. As Song Exiner reached 3 months of pregnancy and began to venture out, she cradled her belly, as if fearful that others might not notice her condition. Jinyu observed her with a smile, yet murmured softly, "There is little distinction between a secondary wife and a concubine. Even if you give birth, it will merely be a bastardy. Besides, you are only 3 months along. Whether you can carry to term remains uncertain."
Song Xiner gazed at her, caressing her belly,
and replied, "At least I have this chance, unlike you. How unfortunate for you, sister. You shall never have the opportunity to bear your own children. Regardless of how many wives or concubines the Wuhan Marquisate may have in the future, there will only be one legitimate heir, my child." Jinyu's expression darkened. "What do you mean by that?" Song Xiner smiled silently, yet her gaze harbored a fierce intensity, as she concealed her face with the brocade fan. "What of you being the general's legitimate daughter? Your mother has raised you like a foolish pig. How can you contend with me?" It was only then that Jinyu realized something was amiss and hurriedly summoned a doctor to examine her pulse. She was oblivious to the fact that she had been administered a potion rendering her incapable of bearing children. Naturally, Song Xiner denied the accusation, weeping and wailing about her stomach pains, claiming that Jinyu was envious of her pregnancy and had wrongfully accused her. Upon reflecting on her words, Jinyu requested the doctor to also examine Gu Shiyu, only to discover that the heir had also been poisoned. Once this scandal erupted, Gu Shiyu could hardly come to terms with it and immediately ordered a thorough investigation. Confident in her cunning, Song Xiner left no evidence behind, and no one could testify against her. However, at this juncture, Gu Shiyu required no validation from anyone, his eyes wild with fury. He stormed into Song Xiner's courtyard and seized her by the throat. "I treated you with such kindness, yet you betray me?" Song Xiner replied sweetly, "Cousin, if you love me so dearly, what does it matter if you cannot sire children? You have me to bear your offspring. We shall not be without heirs, and our children will inherit the Marquisate. Is that not a blessing?" Jinyu, already accustomed to a life of indulgence, completely lost her sanity upon learning of her infertility. One night, she set a fire, trapping Song Xiner and Gu Shiyu within the courtyard. She locked the gate from the outside, dousing the entrance in tung oil to prevent anyone from approaching. The inferno raged throughout the night, and by morning, when the authorities arrived, they found only 2 charred corpses within, those of Song Xiner and Gu Shiyu. Jinyu remained eerily composed, awaiting the officials' inquiry, to which she confessed without hesitation, "My husband favored his concubine over his wife. The concubine poisoned the legitimate mistress, causing me to be childless. I returned the favor by setting fire to the courtyard. I willingly accept my punishment." When my father and I learned of the news, he could only sigh deeply. I visited her in the dungeons, and Jinyu's face wore a mask of cold calmness. "Since childhood, my mother taught me to outshine you in every aspect, to be more beautiful, more skilled in embroidery, more accomplished in music, and to secure a better marriage. Now I realize that everything is dictated by fate, utterly beyond one's control. I set down the pastries and said, "The Emperor, moved by your plight, has not imposed a heavy sentence. You are to be exiled to a desolate land, never to return to the capital." After delivering my message, I left her with her maid and bestowed upon her a substantial sum of money.